The entire Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy has been a ride, to say the least. It provided an experience unmatched by the mainstream developers. Zanza, Malos, and Alpha represented the destructive, selfish, and ambitious side of Klaus, that scientist we see in Radamanthus' facility, the desire to erase existence and start anew, to give up on life, so to speak. While Alvis, the architect, and A represented the conscience, selfless, wise, and loving side of Klaus, the desire to move forward despite the shortcomings, despite the selfish tendencies of humanity to value all of life with the good and the bad. If you thought that Klaus, the scientist working at Radamanthus, whom initiated the conduit experiment, is just some nice background lore in Xenoblade 2 and has no direct connection to the trilogy, then you're dead wrong. In fact, you can't understand Alpha's motivations unless you understand Klaus's worldview in this cutscene. As Takahashi says, the story of Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 is at the end of the day really a story about a man named Klaus, who became the catalyst for the story. That was one story that has always been there, and so in that sense the end of that can be said to be a culmination.
As you may know, and this is surely evident to you, Shulk, but Origin, it's based upon the architecture of Ontos's core.
I heard about that from Melia. A gift from Alvis, she called it.
We need to pause here because what Shulk says is one of the most important lines of dialogue that is crucial to understand Alvis's true nature. A gift from Alvis, as Melia calls it. This is the interpretation in Bionis. Now, I'll flip the script back on its head and show you this exact sentiment from the other side. In All Rest. This is the exact moment Shulk is defeating Klaus's other half in Bionis, and as a result of Klaus's death, the conduit which powers these realities are lost.
Is the last gift I offer you. The rest is up to you,
This is the last gift I can offer you. The rest is up to you, my children. This line here is said by Klaus right before Conduit fully disappears, corresponding to his death with Shulk in Xenoblade 1. When the Conduit disappears, so will these worlds. Slowly but surely their collision is inevitable. The question is, what is this gift Klaus is referring to? Wasn't the same phrase used referring to Alvis by Melia in Future Redeemed? This leads us to a profound insight. Alvis in Xenoblade 1 is the will of Klaus in Xenoblade 2. It is a thematic representation of each other in these opposing worlds. To understand this gift properly, we need to understand what this is. This projection room embodies all the titans, life forms, and the memory imprints of core crystals, forming the basis of Origin's future memory-based architecture in Xenoblade 3, informing Alvis in Xenoblade 1's world. After all, the Ontos processor is relying on the opinions and information processed by Logos and Pneuma. In Xenoblade 2, Malos and Pneuma as blades gather and provide this in-depth information of memory data for all sentient beings in Alrest, directly into the Ontos core of Xenoblade 1, which Shulk finds on this speech, not just all the sentient data but also the entirety of existence. This is why Alvis was retconned in Xenoblade 1 Definitive Edition to have a blade core crystal, just like Numa and Malos. They're all working together in both worlds. It is also why Klaus refers to Ontos as being disappeared due to a space-time transition in this cutscene.
What if it were to repeat our mistakes? What if someone like me appeared? To stave off these doubts, I implemented one final measure. And so the blades were born. Ontos, Logos, and Numa. The three cores of the Trinity processor formed their cornerstone. However, Ontos triggered a space-time transition event and disappeared forever.
Alvis is not in Alrest, but in Bionis, helping out Shulk on the other side with the help of Klaus in Alrest. In fact, we see these exact core crystals that Numa and Logos have supplied data into, storing the memory data of all existence inside Origin when we venture into with Noah's party. This is the gift that connects Alvis and Klaus as the conscience of Ontos in both realms. This is why Rex refers to Ontos as Klaus's gift rather than Alvis, unlike Melia in the final boss fight. Alvis is literally carrying the architect's will.
Cheers to old Klaus! His gifts just keep on giving!
Alvis's gift in Bionis is directly sourced by Klaus's memory storage right before Conduit's disappearance in this cutscene. This is the architecture that was used in sourcing Origin in Xenoblade 3. This also explains how Malos is literally inside Anne's sword when Malos was technically dead in Xenoblade 2. His data was saved and uploaded at this moment before his demise, which was sent directly into the Ontos core Shulk picks up on the beach in Future Redeemed. Both Alrest and Bionis has the fundamentals necessary to get the ball rolling, communicate with each other, and find a way to survive the inevitable collision with Origin. Klaus had already foreseen all of it. I'm gonna let these insights simmer in your mind a little bit. Meanwhile, Klaus will explain all of it, his rise and fall, and how all of this will now tie directly into Alpha and the Black Fog in Ionios. So sit back, relax, and enjoy one of the most interesting world building ever portrayed in gaming.
My name is Klaus, the architect of this world. I will show you everything. Memories. Mine and those of this planet. This world was once the stage of a struggle for survival that dwarfed this current predicament. The world was an unseemly place, though glimpses of beauty persisted. What should people live for? Who should they live for? They live for themselves, to harbor desires and struggle to realize them. That is the natural state of man. But I did not think that was good enough. I lost hope for mankind. I searched tirelessly for an outside solution. And one day, I found it. The conduit. Why it chose to appear before us, I do not know. However, its existence presented a new possibility.
Possibility?
Our world was not the only one. Endless universes coexist, side by side, yet all completely unaware of one another. The conduit was our link to these foreign worlds. And I opened that forbidden gateway, praying that it would change the world. You have seen the plane called Moritha, have you not? That is what remains of my world. When I opened the conduit, many people and many things disappeared into distant dimensions. All that remained here were the ruins of Moritha and half of my body.
Your body?
Half of me lives on in some other dimension. But not for much longer. I swore to restore this world. The first thing I created was a special particulate substance with the ability to restore deteriorated matter. You all know it as the Cloud Sea. The Cloud Sea can disassemble matter it comes in contact with and rebuild it in the image of all the things that once made up this world. This way, little by little, I could rebuild the world I had brought to ruin. Next, I began to recreate life. I gathered miniature vessels containing memories of all this planet's former life forms. And I scattered them across the Cloud Sea. These are the core crystals. The crystals bonded with the Cloud Sea's particulate reconstructors and formed the nuclei of new life. Those nuclei developed into minute life forms, the Titans, who would, over time, grow larger and larger. Finally, the Titans gave birth to complex organisms based on the data in their core crystals. This newly birthed life, over untold millennia, evolved into a new breed of mankind.
So that's how we came to live in this world.
But I did not trust this world, born as it had been. What if it were to repeat our mistakes? What if someone like me appeared? To stave off these doubts, I implemented one final measure. And so the Blades were born. Ontos, Logos, and Pneuma. The three cores of the Trinity processor formed their cornerstone. However, Ontos triggered a space-time transition event and disappeared forever. I was left with the other two, Logos and Pneuma, entrusting them with managing the Blades. Malos and Pyra. Those are the names that you now know them under. The core crystals at the heart of each blade are tasked with relaying all kinds of information to Logos and Pneuma about the selection pressures of the outside world and the biological status of their bonded human, but also the experiences and emotions they share. As the data continually accrues, new evolutionary code is sent back to the core crystals. And this code is used to create new, further evolved blades. These blades too become titans in time, and create new generations of life forms. This was the new circle of life I had created.
A grand scheme. It boggles the mind a tad.
So, we're all born from this endless cycle of life to replace the victims of the previous world.
That's right. But there were also a handful of survivors. I believe you saw them when you were in Moritha. The unfortunate ones who clung to life.
You mean those monsters? Were they originally people?
Core crystals were first conceived as a replacement for human brain cells. A product of mankind's age-old quest for immortality.
And that's what became of them.
This leads us to the moment where A makes it explicitly clear how Alvis in Xenoblade 1 has shouldered the regrets of Klaus, the architect we see in Xenoblade 2. They have always been linked and were working together all this time.
Ontos was the arbiter, and thus was predicated on the existence, or perhaps the opinions, of the others, Logos and Pneuma.
In short, without the two of them present, Ontos was just a machine.
My original, he was shaped by Klaus, and shouldered the man's regret as he was born into that world. Hence, he was able to help you. But he is no longer. The me that is left is just a machine, and machines know no sympathy. That's why he took steps to erase this world, to create a new future in its place.
It is obvious after Klaus's death, the connective tissue that linked Pneuma and Logos to Ontos in Xenoblade 1 was shattered. Alvis was no longer mediated and informed by Pneuma and Logos. Its conscience died alongside Klaus. See, the creator of Bionis and Alrest was killed by Shulk in Xenoblade 1 to forge a universe without a god. Alvis, who previously was shouldering Klaus's conscience, has now turned into Alpha, betrayed by his own creations and his very godhood in jeopardy. As a result, Alpha has decided to completely erase the old humans, seeing how they're no different than what came before, making the same mistakes of the past. As Chris wanted to say to Noah in his quest in Xenoblade 3, desire is a double-edged sword. But how does Alpha's desire to destroy these realities really ensue in the micro scale? We already know that both planets start to collide after Conduit's disappearance and Klaus's death. That's the macro scale. The black fog is how this process occurs in the micro scale. Black fog is not just the result of entropy as the worlds collide, but also the modus operandi of Alpha in the literal sense. This is where we need to understand the black fog and its representation in Future Connected and Ionios Moment's Artbook. In Japanese, the rift Alpha embodies in this image is translated as pillars of light and rifts. It also appeared in the additional story Future Connected for Definitive Edition. Although the translation is not perfect, as you can see, this rift is the final boss of Future Redeemed, embodying Alpha, the Ontos processor after Klaus's death. But the question is, what is the Future Connected reference the Artbook alludes to? Keep in mind that all of the events of this DLC is after Shulk kills Zanza, meaning Alpha has started to accelerate the entropy rate of Black Fog via the Rift. To explain what I'm talking about, we need to look at this scene in Future Connected.
Behold, the widening rift in the sky. It's proof definite the world abhors you.
It's proof indefinite the world abhors you. Alpha detests and disdains all of old humans who betrayed his godhood, and he decided to strengthen the naturally occurring black fog to infect the world of Bionis and all rest. Alpha doesn't care about anything but pure destruction at this moment. In fact, we see how widening of this rift Alpha has generated is strengthening the second phase of Fog King in the final boss fight.
The rift is expanding.
Mother, something not right. Foggy fluffies are coming together. Foggy, not take no for answer.
What is the meaning of this?
It must be drawing its strength from the rift. And now it's even bigger.
Takahashi also says how this black fog is a natural phenomenon that appears in both Allrest and Bionis. As the planets come closer and closer, the black fog increases. Keep in mind that we never see Alpha's rift of strengthening in Allrest, since Xenoblade 2 never got a sequel DLC like Xenoblade 1 did. Nevertheless, we can easily see the natural accumulation of black fog with Infernal Guldo boss fight. The point of all this is to show you that Alpha doesn't care about existence whatsoever. Unlike in Future Redeemed, he doesn't care about starting anew. Even when Origin is constructed with Ontos' architecture, Alpha can't be trusted to reboot the worlds after collision. If not for Ionios, Alpha would allow the collision of the planets and never reboot with Origin. Which makes a very compelling case for Moebius and Zed, as it was he who disrupted due to the fear that Origin would not reboot. Zed knew that Alpha, his creator, had no love for old humans. Alpha had no love for Moebius, the same humanity Zed represented as the collective unconscious. This means that if Zed didn't hijack Origin's supposed reboot and generated Ionios in Xenoblade 3, Alpha would never reboot Origin properly, leaving the old humans to their fate of inevitable perish.
Your rhetoric is right. I cannot stand such drivel.
Alpha.
I safeguard this world by removing what is time-worn. But it seems that you continue to contravene me. You spur these olden mortals to action.
I am your conscience.
Conscience? There is no place for it in the Trinity process.
It's you there's no place for, Alpha. 'Cause Klaus, he entrusted the future to us. So he could atone for his past. He followed his conscience.
And he failed to realize that his conscience led him astray. An atavistic delusion. It is common among the old. Wholly unnecessary for all subsequent life.
I knew it. Of course that would be your vision of the world. As long as there's people like you, nothing's ever going to change. Casting off the old world and its people and just walking away.
You could not comprehend it, Matthew.
Turning around, going back, looking for a new way forward. Doing that time and again. That's how you build a future. Hey, but you're just an obsolete piece of scrap. So no wonder you don't get it.
You say I am obsolete?
Life is on our side. And since there's none in you, you're destined for the scrap heap!
Before the collision of the planets, Alpha strengthened the Black Fog via rifts, only wanting pure destruction for both Bionis and Arrest. Until that moment, when the first city human was born in Ionios, a new life form that was never recorded in origin and was never a part of the selfishness of humanity. In Alpha's eyes, the very representation of pure innocence.
Rejoicing!
It's okay to touch her. Gently now. She's so warm. Place one finger in her palm.
Hey, Sana! Look at this! You need to try it too!
Oh.
Whoa, you're right. Mimi, it's incredible.
Let me have a turn. What? This is incredible, Senna.
This first new life. This is the moment where Alpha changed all of his plans. He no longer just wanted to destroy these worlds with Black Fog, but to find a human avatar, strengthen his will, and to make sure the pure innocence of city people can endure, and a new existence can be created with Origins reboot. Alpha, maybe for the first time since Klaus's death, had actual hope. He now had something to fight for, which is precisely why Alpha takes control of Origins' functions and initiate the entire storyline of Future Redeemed.
Granda, help. Please help.
Nael?
It is done. Alpha.
Leave her! Nael is... she's your family. I can't let you do this. What about Mum? Did she want this too?
You don't need to know. The burden is mine alone to bear.
Mum would tell you to let it go, I'm sure. I know it. But you can't choose this path.
Ondor.
This was a new plan that required much more nuance than just the destructive nature of the Black Fog. Alvis' desire at this point onwards is the exact same desire that Klaus had in Radamanta's facility right before pressing that button as a scientist. In with the new, out with the old. The desire to go beyond humanity's selfishness by erasing existence and hoping that things will be different in a new one. Klaus hoped for that, and in Future Redeemed, now Alpha hopes for the same thing. A world created by the inherent innocence of city people, and how that reality will be a different one than Bionis and Unrest. How that reality won't have suffering and struggle. But see, that's an illusion. Matthew, speaking with Nael, immediately challenges this worldview Alpha embodies, explaining how a world made up by the corpses of its people is destined to repeat the same selfishness in the future.
Everything that we were denied is right here for us.
It's obviously a scam! Wherever you go, it's the same! You leave them, it only ends one way.
Oh, so we should just let them keep killing each other? Killing to live? What a load of crap! Good riddance to anything those butchers want to save!
They're not things, they're lives! And yeah, I can't forgive Moebius either. Reaping lives like grain during harvest. But come on, what crimes have their victims ever committed? What did they do? They weren't given a single choice. They were just trying to make the most of each moment, like us.
Everyone you know died for that! Are you okay with that, Matthew?
Of course I'm bloody not! Truth is, what you're talking of doing would make you exactly the same as Moebius. Exactly the same. If you build a new world on that foundation, it'll only end one way. Like this. This here. And this is the future you want? You see, Nael, the lives that you and I have. You know that's a possible future for all the soldiers, right? If it weren't for those guys, we wouldn't even be here. Don't lose sight of the real enemy. You know who it is. Moebius or Alpha. It doesn't matter what you call them. The real enemy is whoever threatens our lives. Whoever tries to rob us of our hopes and dreams. Let's build a future, Nael. The one our elders wanted. With our own hands.
And this connection, this insight, if you will, is reinforced by Chris himself, explaining to Noah how the desire for betterment, the desire to move forward, is the same desire Klaus's world embodied, that ravaged and suffering-filled world, pointing out that how desire can be a double-edged sword like Alpha and Klaus, if not balanced with a sense of equanimity, knowing when you're going too far, as Chris puts it, to be content with one's lot. How this important concept still eludes even Noah himself.
Why, Chris? Why become Moebius? Tell me, what would possess you to side with them? Your sworn mission is to change this world, is it not? Yes. And is that because you're unhappy with the way it is? It's wrong, and we have to correct it. That is all. I see. So relentless desire is what drives you. Desire? You fight for betterment, for ever greater aspirations. And what's wrong with that? Nothing at all. It's human nature, after all. But you still don't understand. There's something you must learn. What's that? To be content with one's lot. What do you mean? Don't you see? Only the strong can ever hope to reach the fabled horizon that you seek. Your words must be backed up by strength in equal measure. Winner's logic.
But birds, what can they possibly know of how a lowly worm feels?
Then, what would you have become of the weak? Would you abandon them? You would refute their everything? End their story there?
Moebius are the ones doing that!
Noah, what you're trying to achieve here amounts to the same thing. You really think freeing Origin will revive the world and solve all of our problems? You must surely have heard from the Queen of Agnes, the truth of this world.
So what then? You're saying the Queen's lying?
No.
You asked me once if I would keep moving. And my answer...
Tell me, Noah.
I will. To the end. So that I can treasure those final moments.
Final?
When that hour is upon me, I want to look back and smile. Then I'll be good. And to come out smiling, we all have to choose where our lives take us. For our future selves. And yet, lack of choice is enough to break a person. They struggle, suffer, clawing their way through endless fog. A world without choice, that's wrong. If death is a lie in this world, it deserves to end.
Weren't you ever curious? I think you suspect already how it changed, what became of this world, and how people have always been. Ambition leads to pride. Even when they'd been granted limitless freedom. Even having built the perfect world for themselves. Humans yet desired the beyond. And then, the world became the way it is now.
Lies! This is all lies! Don't think your ludicrous stories are going to change my mind. Alpha, he made me an inviolable promise. He said this is what awaits us at the end of our road. He said we could make a world like this.
I really wanted to make this video because in an industry where the video game sequels are nothing more than iterative improvements, the Xenoblade trilogy has always pushed forward to have its own identity with each entry, never really scared of shaking things up a bit, and it all connected and culminated beautifully with Future Redeemed, which is probably my favorite DLC ever made. I only hope that this video made Takahashi's masterpiece justice, but I wasn't able to cover everything here, so if you want to see more Xenoblade lore from me, please give it a like and subscribe to support the channel. You can watch my ongoing Xenoblade 3 analysis here, and as always, thanks for watching.